The identity of most humans today is completely connected to what you do and what you have. But the emphasis doesn't seem to be in who you are or the connection with being. So let's go back in time a little bit. I want to take you guys on a quick time travel, and so we can basically zoom out of where we are right now in existence and draw a couple of conclusions on how maybe this is going to play out and unfold in the future. Okay, so let's go back in time a bit. Let's just try to imagine the amount of civilizations that have existed, which we have no idea of. Okay, maybe some of them were matriarchal, other ones emphasized uh, different development. You know, as you know, your consciousness is so infinite that there are basically different ways where you could develop, where your very intelligence could build technologies not only materially but towards consciousness and energy and emotion, right? Just imagine that. How cool would that be? And how would that people be experiencing life? Because I want to talk a little bit about our identity today in the world today. The identity of most humans today is completely connected to what you do and what you have. But the emphasis doesn't seem to be in who you are or the connection with being. The connection is more, it's more focused on what you do, the task in hand, or what you're going to execute on, or what you're going to do with your life, and what you have. Correct? So let's trace it back a little bit, back in time. Um, we have developed the system and the cultures that we live in. They have been forged in war, right? So our civilization has has focused on matter over energy, the objective over the subjective. Okay, the focus was always in the object, was always in matter. Therefore, the focus in our civilization, in our society, is in what you do and what you have, consequently, correct? Creating a complete disconnection with the primary aspect of who you are, being, correct? Which is very interesting because now we're reaching a point in technological development where the do and the have are becoming so heavy. They're becoming so dense, where we're actually reaching an epitome of technology that's called singularity, where we can basically mimic our own intelligence, except for the actually being factor of consciousness itself, correct? But who knows? Maybe even that is going to be able to be somewhat invoked by artificial super intelligence, right? But anyways, we're getting to a point nowadays where we're basically mirroring an epitome of intelligence through AGI or ASI, artificial super intelligence, artificial general intelligence, right? And so therefore, the do and the have are going to become so abundant. In other words, AGI is going to take all the jobs. Robots are going to do everything. Just do the math. Just listen to the experts. Just open your mind and predict that through consciousness. I mean, of course. Um, abundance is going to become so high and so sustainable that we're going to basically have infinite choices all around us, materialistically, and all that. So we're going to have the interesting thing is that the do or have, they become so fulfilled. Those two aspects become so fulfilled that the new priority emerges. In other words, look at the world today. Depression is the main disease. Cancer, which is proven to be highly psychosomatic, is also one of the big health issues of the century, or right, which basically they mean a neglect to the being, a neglect to the emotion and to the mind, right? Because we know an organism that is whole and feels well, and there's a lot of well-being, and it's very safe, and you're connected to the body, and you know what you're doing, you're healthy. Okay, your organism is whole. It doesn't break down. Okay, you're actually made for perfect health. All right, so there's a lot of psychological like psychosomatic effects that take into this, right? Neglected emotions, negative emotions, a negative lifestyle, and all of that, right? So the new priority becomes being again. That's why more and more people need a deeper and more real connection to who they are, because you can't replicate that. That's why what we're doing here, it's really what people are going to need, what people are needing more and more, right? Because we're going to have to learn how to be again. We're going to have to learn how to connect with ourselves again. And being will be more important. Okay? Now let's go back in time. Imagine the societies that have prioritized energy instead of matter, the subjective instead of the objective. Okay? Because a civilization can develop in any way that it developed, right? I mean, it could have gone the other way around. Like, you never know. Just these things, they happen, right? So think of a civilization that prioritizes the subjective over the objective, prioritizes being rather than doing and having. And imagine all of the intelligence, all of the energy, all resources, all energy, all creativity, all technology being funneled to the aspect of being instead of doing and having. How would that look like? Isn't that amazing? Can you picture that in your mind? Technology being developed towards the subjective, towards the energy world, towards being, and the very connection with being. Okay? Very connection with being. Like, people would just be, you would, because that links with the idea of purpose, correct? Meaning, people talk about what is your purpose nowadays, and they think about something regarding do or have. What are you going to do with your life? What do you have? What have you achieved financially, materialistically, whatever? Actually, the real purpose, guys, is just to be. Okay? Existence, your potential has already been actualized when you were born. Okay? Your primary purpose is just being. It's just being. It's just literally being and literally navigating through the hologram. So imagine, I don't know how long ago, hundreds of I don't know, dozens of civilizations ago, hundreds of civilizations ago. I'm not sure the number, but thousands of years ago, correct? You have the civilization that prioritized being over doing and having. I can only picture people having a different connection with reality in these very elevated states of being where animals and people, they're connected in nature, and perhaps I don't know, but it's very interesting. It's very interesting. And the purpose, guys, was just to be. Now imagine how free that looks like. Just being. When your purpose is just be. And then you do things from that position of being. But because the focus it's literally in energy before matter, there's no, you run from the animalistic world, from the animal world of primates that need to conquer, right? You distance yourself from the idea of tribes and nations, because if energy is more important than doing and having, energy is more important than matter, then the connection of life itself is more important. The sustainability of life itself is more important, right? Because that's when the energy is right. Nobody's trying to exploit anybody. Nobody's trying to dominate anybody. Nobody's trying to conquer anybody. No, everybody's like that civilization itself was conditioning people to live like that, focusing on who you are, focusing on energy, connection with existence itself, therefore connection with everybody in the tribe. There's no tribes, basically. It's one big tribe. Isn't that very interesting? Think about that. Just think about that for a second. It's just it's a different way of thinking about things. And nowadays, more and more, it's about who you are, meaning your connection with being. We're going back, guys, to a time that being is the most important thing you have. You can't have your identity connected to your job, your career, necessarily. That can be secondary, not primary in your life. Never. Let alone what you have. Interesting. Very interesting. That changes the entire idea of purpose. Because nowadays, the focus is on matter. Matter is more important than energy, right? The objective, what you have, the territory, the accumulated wealth, it's more important than the consciousness, connection to consciousness. That's why there's so much war. Because war is the reflection of a civilization that has focused on matter before energy. You gotta do, you gotta conquer. We need to have this, right? That's very interesting. And then the last thing I want you guys to think about is that as you grow up, as you're born in a certain society, okay, you get heavily conditioned to look at things a certain way. That's why the entire hologram, just take a second and just look around you now. And I want you to disconnect from the definitions and the labels. I just want you to look at a point, but I want you to, I want you to find a fixed point, but I just want you to look somewhere, but I want you to open your awareness. Just open the awareness. Almost like can you stimulate your peripheral vision right now? You're going to realize that this is just a hologram. And we've been so conditioned to put matter before energy that our very experience is very connected to the labels. It's very connected to the labels. Now imagine if it's very connected, our identity and our experience, we're so conditioned to being attached to these labels. Therefore, we navigate like this, right? But imagine if we were more connected to the energy, and we literally had conditioned ourselves to live with an open awareness, just a more open awareness instead of a focused, fragmented awareness that focuses on the object or whatever. I don't know. I just think it's fascinating. Imagine the entire hologram might have changed. Your entire experience of how you interact with life itself would have changed. Maybe everything around you would have changed. Maybe the experience itself would have changed because the hologram would have been conditioned. Your experience inside of the hologram would have been conditioned differently. Have you thought about that? That's pretty crazy. Isn't life fascinating? Wow. Life teaches us so much. It makes so much available to us.